Hey again, welcome to the Broken Meeple. I'm Luke Hector, and this is part 3 of our top 100 games of all time. Top 100 co-op games of all time, let's get this right, with myself and Jason Perez from Every Night is Board Game Night. And we are going through the list. This is now 60 through to 41. The games are steadily getting better and better. You know, the first couple of lists, we had a lot of occasions where one of us had not played some of the games that were on the other person's list, and so that's why they're lower down. However, now we're slowly getting into games where each of us has played, but maybe there was a big disparity in rankings, So it's starting to come together, into a much more passionate list. Hopefully you've been enjoying it as we go through, but, one thing I will say, I think that'll do. See you next time, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Top 100 Cooperative Games. I am your host, Jason the Broken... Oh, I am not the Broken Meeple. That's Luke!
Imposter!
No editing, this is just a straight up video call, so you are seeing all the words, people. I am Jason from the Every Night is Game Night podcast. That is Luke Hector from the Broken Meeple. Say hi to the peoples.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right.
I have not grown, contrary to what he's saying, I have not grown a moustache or anything else on me. You should be able to pick me out at the expos.
It is 8 o'clock in the morning over here on a Sunday. I'm pulling that as an excuse.
True.
Whatever. So let's just keep going. We are at number 60 through 41. So we are right smack in the middle of the list. If you have tuned into the previous 2 installments, first of all, thank you very much for doing so. Second of all, you'll notice something about the way we put our list together methodologically. So Luke made a list, I made a list, and we smushed them together, and we made top 100 cooperative games. So the result of that was that there was a lot of games. No, I don't want to hear that. I'm not living that.
Just doing
I'm not living that. Get those scare quotes out of here. Anyway, so there was a bunch of games that I had played that Luke had not played. There was a bunch of games that Luke had played that I had not played. So we're kind of like sharing. So I guess, there was an element of, okay, show and tell. Ooh, look, they're great cooperative games that we've played. And I think that's definitely a thing that top 100s are good for. So like, towards that bottom of the list, you get the hidden gems and, stuff that, ooh, I missed that. I should check that out. Now we are starting to make the turn towards games that and you either probably love, but sometimes not so much. So this is definitely the section of the list where Luke and I had the greatest variance in terms of where we ranked our particular games. So there's going to be games that Luke ranked highly and I did not, that I ranked highly and Luke did not. So expect a little bit of debate, especially when it comes to a certain game that had the most variance between the two of us. That should be fun.
Ooh, ominous.
There's definitely one game that I love and Luke does not. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so let's just jump right in. The first one, which is number 60, this is Luke's baby. So he ranked this number 43 on his list. Mine, it made my list at 87, but you tell us why Legacy of Dragonholt made your list so high.
It's essentially just the fact that if you've played those choose your own adventure games, that's where this one is. I've played a lot of those fighting fantasy, I think they were called, books back as a teen. Had a whole bookshelf full of them, and they were just great. You just read the story, generated a character, nice and easy, read the story and narrative, made your choices, and half the time you died. Well, actually, most of the time you died, and then the rest did. Yeah, exactly, especially with some of them. And sometimes you got through. Well, Legacy of Dragonholt is essentially the same sort of thing, except now you can have a group of you together. Although, I don't necessarily recommend having a giant group of you, because it's a huge collection of, binder books with huge narrative storytelling. I mean, whoever wrote this had a field day with this, writing giant narratives, which I swear describe it in such detail, it's almost like you're doing VR without the goggles, because everything's in picturesque detail. But You'll generate some characters, you choose your skills, much like a fighting fantasy book, you read through the narrative, you make your choices as a group, and you see the adventure play out. So anybody who likes the choose your own adventure books is going to get a kick out of this. The only thing to bear in mind is there's a lot of reading in this. A lot. So when I say big groups is a bit of an issue, you might be sat around waiting for the person to read. But if you've got 2 or 3 of you, it tends to work pretty well, or even solo, it works quite well. And certainly it's a good way to actually teach younger people how to read, because if they can read through this, they can do pretty much anything. But yeah, you just have a few laughs with it. It's just nice and light, and you know, it's almost like, oh, I can't be bothered to make a D&D campaign or do all this. So, well, hang on, we got Legacy of Dragonholt. Why don't we just run through this? Because then all you have to do is just generate your character and make notes, and that's it. So, yeah, it does well for me for that.
Yep, I agree with all that. Good for dates, good for couples, you know, that are just kind of like, yes! Well, maybe not their first date.
I was gonna say.
It is not good for first dates.
If someone has done a first date where they have done Legacy of Dragonholt or some other similar thing, let us know, because I want to see how that went.
In the comments, first date, Legacy of Dragonholt.
She left me the day after.
I have 2 reasons why I like it. I'm so glad that it's in our space. I have 2 reasons why I was a little bit low on my list. Number 1, you said choices, and yes, there are definitely choices to make, but I think that the choices are, like, depending on how you build your character, the stats kind of determine your choices, or your chosen skills determine your choices. So it's like, if you're, you know, you trained up in, I don't know, I forget what the skills are, like stone cutting or something. And it's like, oh, you make this choice, make that choice. But if you are trained in stone cutting, do this choice, and it's always better. So I don't see that. I mean, I guess that's a kind of a thing in a lot of these choose your adventure type things. So, you know, but I think they could do a little bit better with that to kind of make the choice, which is the game part of this, because without the game, it's just the book. So that I kind of had a criticism there. The second thing was, I'm not into Terranoth at all. Like, I mean, I love fantasy, but Terranoth bores the living daylights out of me. I just feel like it's the most generic thing. I know they put a lot in there in that world, but I just feel like it's because of the branding, and they're not really doing a ton to move forward the originality of the world. So they are, to their credit, kind of reflecting a little bit more of the kind of 21st century social mores. You get some, you know, diversity of characters, the genders, they're a little bit more equally distributed. So definitely kudos to that. But in terms of just like the underlying structure of orcs and elves and stuff, I just don't get excited about that. There is a project that just finished on Kickstarter. I think it's launching the backers pretty soon, called the graphic novel adventures from Van Ryder Games. They're solo only. They should be co-op. I've said this multiple times, but they're choose your own adventure novels that are gamified, and they do a much better job, in my opinion. I did not put them because they're not officially co-op.
Oh, I think I know the ones you mean. Yes, that you said on Kickstarter. I thought they'd already released some of these.
They released them in France a couple of years ago, and Van Ryder picked them up, you know, cleaned them up, put them together for a U.S. audience and wider distribution. So these are excellent. So if you're looking for that kind of experience, I recommend that. Z-Man's coming out with Choose Your Own Adventure later in the year, so we are going to get tons of this stuff. Thank you, Legacy of Dragonholt, for kind of being a part of that. So
yeah, we're going to get a new trend.
Yes, narrative. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'll take it over Vikings and Zombies anyway, until they do Choose Your Own Adventure Zombie Edition.
Yeah, once you've hacked as a zombie, is there a way to say jump the shark? So like this, jump the shark, you can nuke the fridge. Is there a zombie way of saying that? We'll get there.
Hard to say.
So that is
Turn
Legacy
the zombie.
Go ahead. Yeah, that is Legacy of Dragonholt, our number 60. So number 59, I happen to have this one around. Luke put this one higher on his list, so I'll let him talk about it. This is number 54 on his list, 74 on mine. Kitchen Rush.
Kitchen Rush. Yeah, I'll admit that I don't normally go for a lot of the timed games, but this one and another one that we're actually going to get to on this section is...
Hourglasses. The Hourglasses, there you go.
What are you trying to do? Yeah. Yeah, so this is one of those examples where for a time game I actually do get behind it, and actually saying that, there's 2 more on this list. We'll get to them there. But with Kitchen Rush... yeah, there's a few more actually, yeah. But with this one, you've got the co-op aspect of everyone's running the kitchen. So if you go into any restaurant, you can see it's pandemonium at the back stores, and this is literally what this is trying to subsidize. So you've got everything from going shopping to get the food, making the orders, doing the waitressing, washing the dishes even, which is quite amusing, and preparing the recipes. But all of you are doing it at the same time, and the way that it's worker placement, but with a twist, because you don't simply just go, right, well, I'll take it in turns and I'll do this. No, you have the hourglasses filled with actual sand. I think they last about, what, a minute each or something?
Yeah,
And depending what task you want to do, you put your hourglass on the spot, no one else can go there, but you can't then take the hourglass off until the minutes run out. So there's these hourglasses all over the shop with, sand tipping out, and you're waiting for one person to hurry up and do the dishes so that you can start serving food, and it just gets extremely chaotic. But you do this for several rounds, you try and score a certain amount of money by the end of it, so again, it's a full co-op, but it is difficult as all get out. I don't know how often you can succeed at this game reliably, but it's just a manic bit of fun, because you'll be shouting at each other, telling them to get out of your section of the kitchen, and it's one of those like, oh my god, it's stressful for a short period of time. That's the thing. I don't like timed games that are like ages before it finishes. This is kind of short bursts of happy stress. So can you call it that?
I really like this game, but I've only played a little bit of it. That's actually borrowed a friend of mine's copy. Gary Pope, late to the table, another Dice Tower guy. Thank you, Gary, for lending me some of your games. Need to play it more. I think I would like it. I think it would shoot up even more if I did play it more. So that's all I gotta say about that. But Kitchen Rush, definitely agree with that one. Okay, the next one, another one that you have more highly rated than me. Number 38 on your list, number 90 on mine. Oh my goodness, what did I do?
Nah, I can see the criticisms this one's got, and to be fair, okay, it's the reason it isn't any higher on my list, is the biggest criticism of them all. Warhammer Quest adventure card game, so not to be confused with the giant versions and that. This was kind of meant to be something that rivaled Lord of the Rings, the card game, when it first came out. They wanted to draw parallels with it, and in some ways they did, but it's very much different. But what hurts this one is the fact that they just stopped it. As soon as the Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight thing ended, suddenly they couldn't continue it, so there was going to be no more expansions. You quickly used up what was in the box, and it got repetitive. But if you can find it, it's not too expensive, and it is good for for the time it lasts. But this cooperative card game where generic, you're going in and your Warhammer universe, you're going in and killing bad guys, but there's a narrative that plays through. The bit that I really liked on it was the way that each character had so many actions you were allowed to do. You were better at some than others. But as you did your actions, I think you had to flip a card or flip the tokens to say, I've done this. And you couldn't sort of replenish yourself until you did your key action. And it was very much a case of coordinating between you and the other players what actions you were going to do, when you were going to flip your card back over, like, oh, you need healing now, or, well, I need this now, otherwise I'm going to get smacked by this goblin here. And yeah, it worked it was a really good, interesting card game that did have some parallels to Lord of the Rings, and I got into it a lot for that. Problem is, yeah, no expansions, no way to keep it going. It is one of those short bursts of, that was good fun. Shame it's not happening anymore. A bit like your favorite TV series that you enjoy for 2 seasons, then it gets cancelled. Evil Dead. I'm not bitter at all.
Do you watch The Expanse, by the way, on Sci-Fi?
No, my friends do, but they were going on about it on Facebook about how that got cancelled, which I can't understand why, because that was getting rated highly.
Oh, man.
But I've not watched it. Maybe in the summer when all my Marvel and DC shows have finished for the season, I might try and watch it in between other Netflix stuff that's on. But yeah, I've had stuff like Ash vs Evil Dead and stuff just get cancelled on me. It's like inevitable, but still, I was enjoying that.
I know. 6 seasons in a movie. Anyway, we're way off track. Warhammer Quest. All right, so Warhammer Quest, I liked it. I guess it's just a total preference thing. I'm not a huge adventure card game guy. If I'm going to play one, I'm probably going to play this one over Pathfinder adventure card game, which was in the last group. I just find Pathfinder to be completely random. This one a little bit more takes advantage of your skills. You have to build your characters the right way and coordinate. So like I think it had better coordination among the characters. So like you know, the healer really feels like he's healing, and it matters when he goes. So you know, you want to make sure that either he's healing or the way they did it was he hands out the buffs. So like they all kind of hand out buffs, but they're all like, you know, the healer is better, so you want to do that. Set up the mage, and you want to make sure the mage has all the buffs so that they can go boom like mages do. It gave the feeling of the characters a lot. So like the warrior tanked, the mage didn't want him to get hit, and he's, you know, launching powerful spells. I think a she. So it did a really good job in that respect. But like Luke said, wah, wah.
Yeah.
The Sadlers are working on another version of this, the Warhammer Quest system, with a different IP. I'm not really sure. They kind of misfired with their first attempt at reviving the system. It was like called Epic AF, which was the stupid toilet humor version of this. Oh yeah, it did not come close to funding on Kickstarter.
No.
If you're watching this, Brady and Adam, sorry for bringing that up. I just thought of it.
Work harder.
It will be, definitely, the system will be back, so looking forward to that. So that was number 58, Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game. The next one is mine. So this is number 57, 91 on Luke's list, 36 on my list, which is pretty darn high. Bam! Days of Ire, Budapest, 1956. So another game designed by the same designer, David Tercey. David does a lot of really awesome games if you're a solo fan. He did Anachrony and a couple of other games that are coming. So this game, it's like mechanically, it's kind of like a more card-driven Pandemic, where you're going around to the different spaces but you're activating based on card play. So this, as opposed to just having like a base set of actions, you have a lot of, you know, you have a lot of different varieties of cards. Like you can move, or you can, you know, move more and, you know, search and do all sorts of other stuff. Like, well, the fact that you're in control of that is pretty cool. And you have to manage your hand. So there's a hand management aspect to it as well. The thing that makes it pop for me, besides like the mechanical hand management, is the theme is really well realized. It feels a lot like, it feels like war game level immersion into history. So like if you're in, you know, if you anybody who's played war games, I think part of the draw is that you get lots of flavor text, you get lots of stuff, you know, kind of there. With this one, you get all of that. Like you get all of the kind of movements of the student uprising. So this was a student uprising in 1956 that was eventually kind of crushed hard. You can play this game one versus many. I have not done that. I'm afraid. I'm doing that because it seems a little bit heady. But you know, I haven't played it, so I can't talk to that. So I shouldn't say anything. But the cooperative version, you are definitely playing the students, and you are going to the different areas. And because of the way the hand management plays out, because of the way that you can actually kind of arc your character so that you get more and more powerful, and you can kind of launch these like big old combos at the end where it's like, you know, you can defeat the tank, or you could do whatever, like, you know, the big kind of enemies or the bigger enemies. At the end, you feel really, really awesome. You feel really, really accomplished. You can do also things like, you know, there's like guards that are posted, and you can kind of draw them towards the different areas, you know, clearing them out so that other people can kind of do the mission in that space. That you're not going to get that from Pandemic. Those cubes don't do anything. They're just sitting there. You're not luring anything. So it does definitely have, like, I almost don't want to say that it's like Pandemic, because I think it gives a certain thing, but I think the actual just kind of like going on spaces and doing stuff on the spaces is similar, but like it adds that whole extra element of an active opponent. You're chasing around. You got hand management, so that there's that. You have to be really smart in the way you play, not just like doing stuff. And the historical immersion, 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 really, really makes for a cool package. I believe that they just did a reprint on Kickstarter, which was attached to the sequel to the game Knights of Fire. See, Days of Ire, Knights of Fire. Look at that, which is actually a classical war game. So you could tell the kind of thematic pedigree of the game. But I really like it. Permanent place in my collection. That is Days of Ire, Budapest, 1956. It is 91 because why? Because you haven't played it a lot?
Not as much as you, clearly, but I think for me it's mainly the theme. I mean, I've played the one versus many. I actually quite like the one versus many system in it. The co-op is still pretty good. I mean, that's why it's still rated it. I think it's more that you get a lot more into that theme than I do. You know, war games and the war history stuff. I mean, I've played through games like Churchill and Twilight Struggle and things like that through GMT games, and they just put me to sleep so bad. I'm not a massive fan of that Cold War history part or like the war stuff. So as much as I can get into the game and go, oh yeah, mechanically this is pretty sound. You know, the card play is pretty good. You know, it does have some advantages compared to Pandemic if we're going to make those correlations, but yeah, with the theme wise, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, you're learning this, yeah, I don't care. It's like what's in my hand, you know. It's like, I can't get into it.
People's lives were at stake. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I'm not saying it's like not important or anything, but I just don't. History was never my strong suit in school or something. I was very much more a geography fan when it came to the humanities stuff. So. But like I say, I still think it's pretty sound. It's just I can't get immersed in it as much as others. So I think it's just a case of if that theme appeals to you, then go grab it. Because to be fair, he's pretty much hit it home with every other game he's done. So
yeah, no, David Turcey's done a really awesome job with anything that he's made. A lot of co-designs, but you could just tell when he has his hand in there. Yeah, I really and not just because of the theme. I do dig this game mechanically as well. Okay, so that was our number 57. Let's move on to number 56. Both of us rated it. Yours is a little bit lower. You're number 75. I'm 52. We are talking about our 56 game overall, Castle Panic. This game is the opposite of an historically rich
accurate game.
I love how with this top 100 list, we can just like bounce back and forth between random games. Okay, this game is well known. This game puts Fireside Games, the publisher, on the map. It's, you know, your classic tower defense game. I think this is probably the most effective tower defense game I know, especially on a family-friendly level. Plays 1 to 6. Just, you know, straight up, you have a little castle in the middle of your board, and you're pulling from a bag of monsters every single turn. They're going to go into this like concentric circle. Think of like a bullseye, so it has these rings. So you pull monsters from the circle, and each monster has a kind of a number or a rule set. So like, you know, the big troll is going to get there slower, but it's going to do more damage when it gets there. And the little goblins or gargoyles get there really fast, but you know, you can kind of you have to deal with them really fast. They don't do as much damage, but if you let them get through, blah, blah, blah. You got mages and like, you know, all sorts of different creatures that come out. The Wizard's Tower expansion, I feel, is essential for the game. Like, I think it's one of those expansions that literally fixes the base game. So please do not, like, only play the base game if you're playing with like a kid or like someone who doesn't play games, in my opinion. It's based on card play again, so you have to kind of have that hand management thing going on. But it's very flat. Like there's not a lot of variety when it comes to like the trolls and the orcs and stuff like that. Once you get to the Wizard's Tower, it adds magic spells, which are these special rarer cards, but they do more stuff. So like you get one card and you only get that one card for maybe a little while, but you can blow up everything in one of the sections, just like, you know, get out of here. Or you can blow up one of your Wizard's Towers and, you know, kill half the field or whatever it is. Cool stuff. I really, really love it with that one expansion. The rest of the other expansions are okay. You know, I'll throw in some Dark Titan, you know, and the Siege Engine one was pretty good too. But the Wizard's Tower, I think, is an essential one that takes this game from okay, maybe not even making the list, to one of my favorite family weight, kind of fast, fun co-ops.
Nah, agreed. It's a decent one, but you hit it on the nose as to why mine's, I mean, to be fair, was it 75? I think I put mine. It's
75, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Still high, but the fact that it is so dependent on that expansion is why it hasn't hit higher up the list. Because if you play this with that expansion, it's actually, okay, this is decent. It doesn't blow my mind, but it's still pretty decent co-op. If you don't have that expansion in it, though, it is way too easy. It is way too, like,
boring.
Yeah, way too boring. And it's just like, you have to be able to not only find the base game, but also find a copy of the expansion. I don't know how easy it is to find that anymore. So it's just, it needs the exact setup to make it as good as goes. So that's why I just didn't go as high on mine.
Mm-hmm. But it's a solid one if you can. If you can find the base game and the expansion, throw that in there. I can really recommend Castle Panic. It is just a really fun, family weight, fast, you know, good time. You're going to see a version of this called Munchkin Panic. Don't. No. No.
Or zombie.
or Dead Panic.
I'll say, yeah, it's Dead Panic. Yeah, don't forget
or
that one as
even
well.
or even Star Trek Panic. Star Trek Panic was probably a little bit better because it had like the center, because in Castle Panic it's just a castle. It doesn't really do anything. But in Star Trek Panic, you actually have the Enterprise in the middle, I think, and then you turn it around. You can kind of turn the shields and whatever.
Yeah, that one just goes on a bit long. It can go on too long.
Sounds cool, but like that extra decision space and the way some of the monsters come out make it go on a little bit longer. You could probably, I've seen that one in discount bins for like $5.
Oh yeah, that came and went. That's
for as much as, you know, people were kind of excited about it, as at the very time you get into it and it was a little bit, you know, a little bit long. Castle Panic really does the trick of making it nice and, you know, it delivers the experience that it delivers, that tower defense frantic experience, but in a much shorter, more manageable amount of time. The fantasy theme is cute. Just don't look at the other Panic.
Yeah.
So, I feel bad for saying that, but anyway. Again, so that's Castle Panic then. Number 55. No, that was number 56. 55 is a game that Luke has not played too much, but I can tell that you are a little bit tired of hearing about it.
A bit, yeah. As well as the other ones, similar, but
as well, we'll get to the other one. Believe you me. So this one, so this is the Seventh Continent. This is number 26 on my list, which is pretty high. Luke had played it, so it kind of snuck on his list in there, but way at the bottom.
I'm not seeing a huge buzz for it, but this is where you get to rave about it.
Okay, so I'm not gonna rave about it. It's a design, like it's not one of those. Like I don't own it. I think if I really was gonna be like, truly into this game, I would just like, oh, I'm going all in, $100-something odd and everything. So if you don't know what Seventh Continent is, it is a Kickstarter project. It launched, you know, raised a bunch of $1 million. It's basically a mega choose your own adventure card game. And you're playing cards that are laid out and you're slowly kind of exploring island basically. And there's different scenarios, and different scenarios kind of make you do different things, make you discover different things. And you're not actually like, it's not a combat scenario at all. If there's this combat is basically a brawn check, you know, it's basically a skill among many other skills. And you could do all sorts of stuff. You can do fishing and cooking, and, you know, you're exploring this evolving story. And so the way they managed to cram all that in a box of cards, and it's a heavy box of cards. You're paying $120 for like literally thousands of cards. So you're definitely, I feel like you're getting your money's worth on that. And I rated it 25. I rated it 26. So that's pretty darn high on my list. The only thing I'll say about it is I think, and this is I think it's a function of being a Kickstarter, not having like a real publisher, a real editor. The different curses, which are the adventures, they go on pretty long, and they're very grindy for how long they go on. Like you could take 15, 16, 20 hours to complete one of the quests, and it's the recommended first quest, which is like a disaster. Just give me a warm up, please. And if you die, you have to go reset all the way back. I think they fixed that with some of the second Kickstarter stuff, but like if you died in the first one, you have to go all the way back.
That was a big put off.
And the card play can be a little bit repetitive. You know, you're building up your stuff. Like you might have a shovel, and you combine it with something, you get a better shovel, or a shovel with more uses, or whatever it is. But this is what the level of items we're talking about. We're not talking about like fancy anything. So the management is cool, but it does get a little bit repetitive and long. So there is if they had just taken the editing scalpel and just shaved off some of that fat, I think this is like an all-time game. Like I really, really think that, but they haven't done it yet, and not that I've seen. So that's just a little bit kind of down. So it kind of blocks me from spending that $100, but I can really recommend if that sounds at all good to you. So like if you, let's say you like Legacy of Dragonholt, what Luke talked about before, this one scratches that itch in a very different but similar way. Like it gamifies so much more. And if they can really get some of that right, I think this is going to be a no-brainer. But yeah, Luke, did you have any kind of experience like with the length of it or whatever it is?
That grindy aspect certainly was an issue also, because I just felt like, you know, okay, I'm surviving on this island and I'm doing all this cool stuff. Well, hang on, I can do that in Robinson Crusoe as well. And I get a similar thing out of that.
In like 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly, in like 2 hours. I mean, I think I sampled a fair bit of the first scenario now, and I'm just thinking, when does this end? It's going on forever. Just blow up the island already or something and see what happens. The cards themselves, I mean, like the game components and that were not fantastic with it. I mean, you paid for a ton of cards, but that's pretty much all it was. It's like a bucket load of cards. And I really don't like the fact that this one went down the whole Kickstarter exclusive way. It's like, do you want to play this game? Well, you must A, use Kickstarter, which a lot of people don't want to use. B, spend a bucket ton of money, which is not, the best thing for any game. It's all right saying, oh, this game's entertaining, but if it costs £150 to £200 to get all the stuff, it had better be the best thing ever if you're going to justify such a price hike. Yeah, and like I say, it's just getting shouted at by literally the 20 people who have this game, because you could only get it on the Kickstarter, and yet it's going up for all these awards. It's just like, at least make it widely available before you start doing something like that. And like I say, I find it enjoyable enough to actually put it on the 100 list, but it just, like I say, I think it's one of those things where it's like, you've got a good concept here. Now you need to take it to an actual publisher, get it on wide distribution, and streamline or correct a few things. And then you probably would have an absolute star hit on your hands. But I just think going down their whole solo route probably didn't help it as much.
Yeah, I think that first of all, if a publisher gets it, they might just hack the thing to bits. They might
streamlining's good to an extent, though. I mean, you've got it. So, you can expand it later if you need to add more content.
I guess that's the question, right? They're streamlining, but then there's just, cutting it to the point where it's not even a real game anymore. So I will interest you guys, do a little bit of self-promo. And on our recent episode of Every Night is Game Night, we had a designer roundtable with Isaac Childress, Frank West, and Tristan Hall, who are all designers of giant, big, honking fantasy games, some of which we've talked about on this list. And they all talked about how they needed to self-publish, because if they took it to a publisher, or in Tristan's case, when he took it to a publisher, they're like, okay, cut this, give us about half the game and we'll publish it for you. So at a certain point, it becomes not the game that they want to release anymore. So it's like, I might as well just, release it ourselves. I acknowledge that, but I do think they still could have used a little bit of an editor to trim some of that stuff out. Like Mansions of Madness is a good one. We haven't talked about that one yet. Spoiler alert, it's on the list. It had it kind of had a better arc to it. So it's like, you had your basic scenarios that lasted a couple hours. And if you want to play the mega scenario, it's there. It's kind of behind the wall, and it's kind of paced a little bit better. Like, I just felt like this one was sprawl, and it kind of lost control of the sprawl, especially for that one scenario that is like the first one suggested one or whatever it is.
Well, you could just expand it, though. That's the thing. Streamline it a bit, have a good solid base game that gets people into it, and then as people are still sort of like whetting their appetite as like, wow, this was really solid, I want more, boom, here comes another expansion, you add the extra scenarios or the extra mechanics you wanted, and then the hardcore folk can grab that. But
right.
I think trying to release everything in the kitchen sink straight off the bat without some kind of trimming, because it may be a case that they try to take 100% of the game to the publisher, and the publisher says, hack all this stuff. And it's like, well, fair enough. Maybe you really only needed 75% of the game originally. There's probably a good 25% you could have cut for good reason. And the self-published ones do sometimes fall flat because of it.
And it's not just the expansion content. I just think that there is a grindy element to what you're doing itself that can get a little bit repetitive in terms of it's not just content stuff. It's like design cutting. Anyway, so that's the seventh continent. Yeah. It's almost an all-time game for me.
And almost fully solo. Because does anyone actually play this as a co-op?
Dan King from the Game Boy Geek. I got into a discussion with him on PAX East. He's like, it's an amazing co-op game. You can go here and you can go there, and there's a way just the different characters, and the minis are not anything in this game. No. They're minis. No, they're like blobs basically. So you can, as you explore cards, you can either cooperate to make certain things easier. But at the end of the day, you're kind of there's no actual cooperation. You're just basically saying, come here, come to this other card that makes this task easier. But it's just like you're there doing it. You're not actually using your character to make a task easier, so you're not actually cooperating in that way. So I think that's why it's a solo game. But hey, people like it. I'm not going to say it. It's list technical cooperative games who belongs on this list. So that is the seventh continent. Another giant Scenario-based game is next. It is number 84 on Luke's list, so not as high. 39 on mine. I think this game is great fun. Sword and Sorcery. All right, so this is a giant.
That doesn't sound good. The dragon's head's fallen off.
It is just the base stuff I have in here. I apologize for the sudden one. I could pack the stuff. Like, there's a lot. It's slowly being released now. It's, it's one of these dungeon crawlers. It's basically an echo of Descent. So fully cooperative though. Why I like this game a little bit better than Descent. We'll get into Descent and spoiler alerts that's on this list too. Actually, you know what? Let's save it. We're going to save it. Descent is coming up pretty soon. Let's talk about both in the context of one another. So pause.
Okay. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. It's coming up real soon.
After this somewhat dubious message that I want an explanation for.
All right. Okay. So that was 54. So number 53. Luke did not put on his list because it is not a technical co-op yet. Yet. But I think you like this game.
I do love this game. I will say that. But people have seen it in your thing now, so yeah, it's there. I do love this game, but
near and far.
Where's the co-op part? Because
well, first of all, okay, campaign-based game, very whimsical. It's a Euro. So you're doing Euro-y stuff, worker placement. You're putting your stuff there, and you put your little meeple there, and you get your fish, and you get your things, and you're turning that into more stuff so that you can adventure better, basically. So like there's a book, and I love the book board. Sure, why not? We're doing show and tell over here. Why not? Where is this thing?
I was gonna say I don't need to get it off my shelf because you got it there.
That's right. Well, bam. So this is like a little storybook over here. Look at that. There's gems and stuff. And that's the game board. Look at that game board.
Well,
and there's
one
all
of
sorts
many,
of game boards.
yeah.
And this is such a brilliant innovation. I can't believe that more games don't do this. We had Ryan on the podcast, and he was like, one time they were playing a game of something else, and there was a binder there. They may have been playing an RPG, and there was game bits, like they just got spilled randomly on this binder, and they're like, oh, that looks like a game board. We should do something with this. Like, it's that simple. So they use the binder book, the map book, to kind of make this evolving campaign, and you're playing the same game. You're playing the same Euro game of placing yourself on places, getting items, getting resources so that you can go out and explore these different areas. What makes the game just a cut above, and I think it does this a lot better than Above and Below. Because Above and Below, I didn't think had the good integration of the story and the mechanisms. It just felt like you were playing two different games. This one really felt like you were integrating the different things. The campaign mode adds a lot. I think there was better bounce back between the story and the mechanisms and everything. It's a whole bunch of good, this game.
It's a solid game. Well, let's talk about the elephant in the corner.
There's no elephant. I'm not.
You see, he's right there. He's right there in the corner.
So we have been playing variants that were made from BGG. This is an insight that I heard from No Pun Included when they did their review. No Pun Included, they made the observation that this game should have been co-op the entire time. And that they basically don't play with the points, especially if you play the campaign. If you play the campaign, like a lot of the groups that I have experienced the game with, they don't even track who wins. Like they just play the game and they play for the story and they have fun and everything. And like they just kind of drop off the the point scoring. So that's like not cooperative because you're not actually cooperating, but you're not competing either. What are you doing? You're experiencing an adventure. So it is a hop, skip, and a jump to a full co-op mode, which is actually coming in Amber Mines. So you can kind of make a cooperative. It's very easy. Like they didn't do much in Amber Mines to make this co-op at all. And co-op has been available, at least in terms of custom content, for a while for this game. And Amber Mines came out last year. You could just download those rules and just put them in. Didn't take too much. So I just ended up co-oping this game and like playing without point scoring and not competing. well before the expansion came out. So like that's been my experience of the game.
But how do you actually help each other in the game, though?
Well, you can you're building up to build like there's like a threat or something. I forget exactly how the threat plays out, but like you're building resources, and as long as you're kind of answering, have enough resources to meet the threat, then boom, you're done. It's kind of like how Orleans does it, where there's a quote unquote threat and it sets a bar, and you have to cooperate in order to cash in those resources to meet that threat. So I think that's kind of how you do it with a Euro.
I look forward to the whole. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Amber Mines and that. I've got it coming out as a Kickstarter, so when it gets released properly, I want to try the full co-op mode, because I did play the full campaign with some friends of mine. We loved the game. I won every single game. So they aren't as experienced with the games as me, and even though there were a couple of close calls, there were frequently like, they're not spotting how they should be getting points. You know, they function so much on trying to grab all the quests they can, not realizing that sometimes just going for the quest books is not the best optimal way to do it. You know, you need a bit of everything, and sometimes they would forget that, oh yeah, can you tell that the focus on this one should be on, I don't know, the trading ones, you know, go get the chilies and the things. And so yeah, there was a lot of those, but I have to admit, yeah, we didn't necessarily care by the end of it, because I'd won a fair few games, like who was going to win overall the campaign. We just wanted to play through it, but we never were technically co-oping. You know, if there was a chance to nick something from another player, you were doing it. So I look forward to this co-op mode, but yeah, I couldn't put this one on the list because I've not tried any of this custom content. So this is just going from a retail version of the game.
And I normally would not, like, I would not say, I don't want to like take my favorite games, go on a BGG, find a co-op version, fan made, and just do it. Like, I'm not going to do that for every game. There's a whole bunch of games kind of behind my shelf over here that I would love to play co-op. Give me some Takenoko co-op, darn it. You know, I love Takenoko. But because of the way people have played this game, that they've kind of chucked the point scoring, at least in terms of the campaign mode, because there's a co-op coming, because there has been custom content and fitting. I'm just going to go ahead and make a little bit of a leap, and I'm going to say that this is one of my favorites. And then when Amber Mines hits, this bit will be up. It'll be nice and up to date. So anyway, so I'm pushing it a little bit, but it is not that far stretch in my opinion. That is near and far. We did not make you make you wait long. So number 54 was Sword and Sorcery. Number 52 is Descent. So these are very, very similar games. So let's talk about them together. I have Sword and Sorcery rated more highly. It was 39 on my list. Luke has Descent rated more highly, which is 32 on his list. Let's talk about it. Descent versus Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah, it's kind of like an equal switch. And to be fair, Sword and Sorcery is warming up to me a little bit more. But I am starting to wane on dungeon crawls in general. I don't know. I think my top 10 turkeys is going to be out before this will. So some people will get a heads up on that. But yeah, dungeon crawls in general, I'm just starting to get a little tired of this whole thing of, oh look, it's a brand new dungeon crawl. So what do? Generate a character, go kill monsters, steal from J.R. Tolkien yet again. So it's kind of the same old stuff. Now, Sword and Sorcery I do like, because it is a more streamlined version of a lot of these ones that are coming out. It felt like it condensed it down, even if it is a bit of a generic theme or something. So I give Sword and Sorcery props. Descent 2.0 I always felt was like the good classic co-op one. And this isn't just going from an all versus one style of it. I mean, I like Descent in that mode a lot, because it is like, yeah, it's generic fantasy. It's still Terror-Off universe, is it?
Yeah,
it's a Terror-Off. But I mean, you can pretty much just treat it as D&D. Yeah, you can treat it as D&D. I mean, it's like, here's my barbarian, here's my mage, here's my other cool guy. We're going to kill trolls and dragons, and it was a cool, just neat, streamlined system, even if you can bloat it out. I like what they did with the app, though. I know this is a bit more divisive with some people, but if you didn't want the all versus many, you could now get the app via Fantasy Flight that now fixes one or two things I did have a problem with, because with a lot of these one versus many dungeon crawls, you see the entire map. You know, you might get a couple of surprises, but you can see the whole layout ahead of time. Whereas with the app, it can hide bits off you, so there's a bit more of a fog of war element. And again, you're co-oping, the app is pretty well integrated. Fantasy Flight do a pretty good job with these, you know, a la Mansion of Madness and various other ones. And another one that we're actually coming up to very soon, actually.
Very soon.
So, yeah, I like the way the app integrates. So, I mean, in terms of which one I find to be the more enjoyable one, it's Descent over Sword and Sorcery, but I still give Sword and Sorcery props. It was just, like I said, I've had more experience with Descent as well.
There's more stuff for Descent, clearly. I mean, it's just, there's tons of stuff. And they're always updating the app to go along with that stuff. So I think Imperial Assault, which is the other one, has a problem of there's not enough content in the app itself. I think they're working on it. Descent, you get everything. I mean, at least as of the time of recording of this video, all the lieutenants, all the scenario packs, and all this kind of stuff. You get so much in that app. It's a significant cost to get all this stuff. The reason I like the Sword and Sorcery system better, number one, I think tactically I like it better. Sword and Sorcery has a system where you're moving tile to tile as opposed to square to square. I find the square to square, classic D&D-ish, but I find it very kind of grindy. You're chasing a lot more in Descent. Like Descent works out more of like as a race, which some people kind of like that kind of thing. I quite don't. Also, Descent does this annoying thing where you get the Pez dispenser effect. So like you're killing monsters and reinforcements come and it's more monsters. It's more monsters. It's more monsters. And you're not trying to kill the monsters. You're kind of racing to some sort of objective for, not every scenario obviously like that, but I think there's more of that here. Sword and Sorcery, it is a kick the door down and just, let's just slaughter stuff and have a lot of fun and feel powerful. And this is a really subtle thing. So Sword and Sorcery uses a D10 for their dice resolution, and it has all these weird symbols on the D10. Why do I find that much more satisfying to roll than the D6 is? And it's not just D6s, like there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on in Descent dice too. But the D10 I just felt like worked out better. Like, is more chance of something happening. Like there's not as much chance of like a complete whiff. I think on the Descent dice you get, there's an X on one of the dice, and if you roll that, that's a whiff. There's only one X on the Sword and Sorcery dice, so like you're not going to whiff as often. And so you're going to do something. And, I like that. I like that, it doesn't make it easier. I know some grognards are saying like, oh, you got to take your ones like a man. Thank you. I will take losses. I will, go with the swinginess of the dice. But the fact that they found a way to make a system where like you can just do either a whole lot or a whole little or whatever it is. And like, I can take if it's not enough, but like that sense of whiff is not there. There's design space in the 10-sided die to like do all sorts of magic effects. So like you roll and you get something and you get the hit and all this kind of stuff. Really solid package. I don't have a lot of stuff for it. When I complete the campaign, I need to find a group. There is another dungeon crawler that is sucking the air out of the group. So not as many people want to play this with me, but that doesn't make this a bad game. So I'm keeping it around until somebody wants to play it with me. So hit me up, people. I need some Sword and Sorcery friends. So that is Sword and Sorcery.
Give me a plane ticket to the US.
Sword and Sorcery number 54, Descent number 52. 51, this is your baby, man. This is not even close to my
list. I get to do show and tell.
Luke's first show and tell. They take us to number 51.
Yeah, you own more than I do. I'll give you that. You definitely own more games.
This is not on my list at all. This is number 10.
Yeah, this is your... I was going to say, yeah, this is your... Well, we'll get to your closer one in a minute, but yeah. Yeah, the right way. XCOM. Yeah, it's kind of boring. I got to lean back a little bit. Yeah, I'm still in love with this one. I mean, I can see why some people won't like it. I get it. It's a timed game, and you have got the first half of the game being the timed, and then you resolve it all. So, and a lot of people went into this thinking it was going to be the XCOM, the computer game, where you're out killing monsters, which is fair enough, but we got dungeon crawls for that. I wanted something a bit more with the whole planning aspect of it, and I knew it was going to be abstracted to an extent because you couldn't really create the full XCOM experience in a board game without making it huge. Get a self-published Kickstarter, maybe it might work. But with XCOM though, it takes that whole planning where your interceptor planes are going, who you're sending out on missions, what the scientist is doing, and it condenses that into this great little timed co-op where each player is taking control of a particular role. So your security officer, your scientist, your the commander, and during a timed phase that's handled by a brilliant app integration of having all the rules and dictating what's going on, what the aliens are doing in the different scenarios, depending on what difficulty as well. It throws a ton of nasty stuff at you. You've got to react to it in quick time. So scientist is got hand management with a bunch of cards to see what kind of tech everybody needs. The commander's got to, work out how much money is available to actually finance everybody defending out, as well as choosing between these nasty crisis cards that which one's the lesser of two evils. Military dude's got to send out people on missions and resolve those, and I think the central officer, I think it's called, has got like the satellites and dictating what the app is doing. So everyone's got their own distinct role, but if one fails, all fail. You really don't want somebody to be like Deadwood in this. And I still get a kick out of it. The theme is there, the app's got all the sound effects and all the look for the computer game, which I like. I have played Enemy Within and XCOM 2, I love both games, and I don't know, I just get a kick out of the timed aspect. You get that bit of stress, and then you get that little calm period of resolving everything, and then it's like, right, we ready? Turn 2, get going now. just dive in straight for another time phase, and then resolve. And you can win this by the skin of your teeth. It has happened. There is some die luck, yes, but then again, most co-ops have got some degree of luck, so you can mitigate it to an extent, and some of it is push your luck. You went on for too long, well, that was your fault. So yeah, I get a kick out of this one. I understand it's not for all, though.
You completely and utterly skipped over why this game sucks.
From your perspective,
or
okay.
Not skipped over, but like you kind of mentioned it there at the end. It's the dice resolution. Everything about this game is fabulous. I love the app integration. It's very primitive app integration, by standards of some of the things we've come to expect from the Fantasy Flight apps. This is kind of primitive. But it works, and that feeling of like someone having an app and like shouting out, "No, you do this. This is happening. This is happening." That's pretty awesome. I love the real-time games. I love the strategy. I would absolutely love this game. I just think the dice, like you're basically rolling dice, and it's kind of a zero-sum thing. Either you get it or you don't. And the game is tight enough to where if you don't nail at least, a good chunk of what you're trying to do, you get nothing. Like literally you can have a dice run where, and you're doing lots and lots of rounds. So like there's lots and lots of chances for this to happen, where you have a dice round where you've done everything, you've planned out stuff, you've even given yourself a buffer, because the dice are coming, and everything still falls apart anyway. And you lose all your interceptors, and you lose all this, and you lose all that. And, like you're saying before, it's kind of your fault if you push your luck too fast. Well, sometimes, if you don't push your luck, you're just eating the loss. He's like, okay, I have to roll this again. I just have to. It's like, oh, look at that, I failed again. And it's the Fantasy Flight, so I think it's the 5-6 system. So it's not, and you can mitigate that to some extent. So two of the 6 faces of the dice are successes, the rest are failures. Again, mitigation a little bit, but the fact that it's that tight, and they said a little bit of mitigation. I don't think it does enough. You really can do the best that you can, be on a string communication-wise and have that great feeling, and then it falls apart.
You can say that about a lot of co-ops, though. I mean, even the Great Pandemic or something, you could plan out your turn, and then the infection cards you draw next time, or the way the player cards come out, just don't give you what you're hoping for, and then, a lot of co-ops can have that luck aspect. And with rolling the dice, yeah, there is a fair bit of that, but the best way to get around that is mostly the scientist stuff. If the scientist is not pulling his weight and giving you all the cool tech, then yeah, your luck mitigation is worse off than normal. But if a scientist has done well at getting the security guy all his weapons to take out on the field, and the satellite dude all his other bits and bobs, or the commander his extra money, it suddenly reduces that as that. I mean, yeah, there is some luck, and it will sometimes screw you over. But then, to be honest, didn't that happen in XCOM pretty much all the time?
So I didn't play XCOM either. That's the other thing that doesn't draw me to the game. I'm not an XCOM player. I didn't play Enemy Within, anything of that stuff. I think part of why you're into it is because you're drawn to the video games. Hey, that's games.
Yeah.
We are drawn to the IPs that we love. I'm guilty of that as well.
I was a latecomer to the XCOM games, actually. I mean, my friends played it a lot more before, and I probably didn't play Enemy Within until a short while before XCOM 2 was released. So it took me a while before I decided, yeah, you know what, I've got time to play it. And I had played games like Incubation and a few other ones in the old days that was similar style, the semi-3D going around and that. But yeah, I kind of got hooked on the story, and that does help, even though I knew that this wasn't going to recreate it exactly. But yeah, you can have times in the computer game where, you plan stuff and then suddenly it just goes nuts, especially during some of those missions where the enemy just happens to spawn, gets a fluke hit, kills your best dude or something, and it's like pure luck. But it happens and you sort of just go with it. But yeah, not for everyone, I know.
Not for everyone. One last thing I'll say about it. Like you said, like it's lucky like Pandemic or a lot of other co-ops. Picture if in Pandemic, in order to cure a disease cube, you had to roll a die. Every single time you have to cure a disease cube, you have to roll a die. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes you roll great dice and you can remove a couple, but sometimes you just fail. You enter that mini pocket of a lot of failure. That's the level of luck in this game. I mean, and you can get, bad turns of the app, like, it just all of a sudden assault South America and you're just going to lose it and everything. Like there's so much of that's going to happen in this game. I had it. I sold it. I'd play it again just to check because I enjoyed the experience of it. But I just remember ending very frustrating. But anyway, but no, good on you, man.
Yeah.
If you enjoy that, that's really
I'll
cool.
go that one for the fans, so I'll sort of give it that. If you're not into the IP, it's not going to hit you as well.